I'm Jess Evans.
I'm Sophie Eels.
Hi, I'm Camilla Fowie.
I'm Steph Fernandes.
An unstable political environment creates uncertainty in the mind of air travellers with regarding travelling to a particular country. Terrorism is a looming threat to some countries, and an event like this could stop people wanting to fly, which may be an issue faced by some airlines in the future. For example, 9/11 saw a huge drop in air traffic as people were concerned for their safety and security. Trade relations also pose a risk, because if two countries stop trading with each other, then there can be flight restrictions to that particular country. State-owned airlines in communist countries like China may recognise the need to compete and be more efficient by making airlines more privately owned. There are also many legal factors, the main one being that the EU court has just ruled international airlines will be charged for carbon emissions. All airlines flying to and from EU airports will buy permits under Europe's emissions trading scheme. This could create problems in the future as prices to fly will increase and people can no longer afford to use this mode of transport. It's also a decision likely to escalate tensions with the United States and China and other trading partners. The European Commission has calculated that costs per passenger could rise between $2 and $12. It could also cripple competitiveness as it offers carriers operating through hubs close to Europe an unfair advantage, said Singapore airline spokesman Nicholas Lanais. Other countries may also retaliate by introducing permits as well. And lastly, there are increasingly tight rules about the materials that need to go into aircraft construction in order to make them safer and more resistant to fire hazards. This has had the impact of raising costs and may also raise costs in the future.
Okay, I'm going to talk about some economic issues to do with the airline industry. One factor that we've identified is fuel prices increasing. Because there's no stability in the market and there's no predictability, a lot of companies can't plan too far ahead. They can't look into the future and create a long-term plan which isn't very beneficial for them. And with the fuel prices increasing as they are, they have no projection of what they're going to be doing in the future, and that makes it very hard for them to plan their business, and as a result means that they're likely to do less well than they could do. Fuel prices have increased. We've used the example which is Ryanair. Over the last half of this financial year, their prices have increased by over 13%, with an average flight price rising from £36 to £41. And we believe that the days of £1 flights that Ryanair initially offered, and that's what really grabbed the public attention towards them, we believe that they are now over, essentially. Another big problem that they are likely to face is debt. Debt is a huge problem across any industry at the moment in the current economic climate. But a lot of airlines are in so much debt that even a natural disaster or something like a terrorist attack is likely to actually cause serious problems, and in some cases will actually force the company to close down, such as the level of debt that they actually have at the moment.
That's economy. So from an economic perspective, one of the inevitable threats to the airline industry in the next 3 years is the development of the current Eurozone debt crisis and the failure of the government potentially to rectify the situation. Many economists have forecasted a depression within Europe in 2012 that could cause widespread economic weakness and affect the profitability of many international airlines. The adverse scenario will be characterised by cuts on government spending and subsidies, high unemployment rates, and little or no confidence in business markets across countries. So it is unlikely that businesses will have confidence to invest in new overseas ventures and will probably cut their spending on travel too, which together will potentially reduce the demand for airline business services. So another factor could be the inflation rates. If they were to increase significantly over time as a result of the crisis. This poses a big threat to the competitive, low-budget airlines who aim to keep their prices low and attractive, yet have to accommodate for these inflating prices of fuel, maintenance and service-related costs. Some airlines could fall into administration depending on how they deal with the increases, which as a result could mean some airlines do actually do better out of the lack of competition if these fall into administration. A significant increase in the cost of living will not always be met with wage and salary increases as a result. So consumers could have less disposable income, making them unlikely to spend more on luxuries like holidays abroad. And again, this could threaten the survival of those airlines that cannot cover their rising costs by increasing prices or stimulating more demand. How severe the effects of the prices are upon airline firms depends on their size, their reach and the nature of the individual firms though. And obviously there is no telling how deep the European economy could fall into recession yet.
To consider about the social factors, I think the most important one should be something related to the ecological factors like the low carbon dioxide life, because we are becoming more and more sensitive to the environment that we live in. And in some developing countries, it might be not really good conditions of the environment, so people becomes more and more conscious about this point. And to consider about this, the aircraft might be not really environmentally friendly, so that's why many people just don't choose the aircraft, and instead of they might choose some like the high-speed railway and other like trains for their trip. And also the new transportation means might become uncompetitive of the aircraft company, because to consider about the ticket price and the time delay and the great amount of time, including the transit and other things, it might be not really good for us. And also the aircraft, it depends on the weather allowed, that might be not really good. And for example, in China, the high-speed railway is really famous because it's independent from the weather, and you can choose whatever time you want to choose.
There are many technological factors that will affect the airline industry over the next 3 years. One of the new innovations being used by Heathrow Airport Terminal 5 are these baggage handling systems, where instead of using baggage handlers, the bag is placed on a cart on a set of rails and goes to a specific destination within Heathrow Airport. Each bag goes to a different destination, or it might go to a storage unit where it will be taken out at a specific time. This is all computerised and so makes it faster and cheaper for the airlines to use. Boeing is always increasing its innovation. One of the things it's doing is increasing its fuel efficiency so that the airlines can carry more and go for longer. This will affect the airline industry over the next 3 years because it will mean that flights might become cheaper because there will be less fuel needed to fly from one place to another. There will also be increased space on the airline, meaning that there can be more luxury accommodation on the plane and also more seats available for booking. Access to the internet is increasing. Although most of us think that everybody is on the internet, this is not true. Only 53.8% of people in Europe actually use the internet in 2011. So really there's a lot of potential for more people to use the internet and book their flights over the next 3 years. And as people become more internet savvy, there'll be an increased number of people using it. And also consumers have the ability to compare flights between 2 different airlines, meaning that they get the cheapest flight. This makes airlines more conscious of their price and usually will drive down the price and increase competition.